I'm excited to share a new series of projects with you all about investigating your neighborhood. First, we'll take a look at our neighborhoods from a new perspective. Then we will spend time in person walking and looking at our neighborhoods. Lastly, we will make some projects using simple materials that help expand on some of the inspiration we find from our walks and investigations. The first part of our project is all about mapping. Anytime I go to a new city, I like to start by drawing a map. Using my hands to draw the space and follow the roads helps my body and my brain prepare for later when I'm going to be physically moving through that space. Drawing maps is a great way to become familiar quickly with a new place, but it's also a really great tool for understanding our relationship to the place that we live. Even though maps depict factual information, they're made by different people trying to share different ideas and have individual intentions. They serve different purposes, tell different stories, and show different types of information. So when we look at them, we need to be critical thinkers. And when we make them, we have to decide what our own perspective and our own goals are. Start where you are. Put a mark where your house is, then draw the street that you live on. Next, think about a place in your neighborhood that you go, maybe a park, a store, a friend's house. Then draw in the roads that connect point A to point B. Drawing a map is a great activity to do by yourself, but it also could be a great thing to do as a team or a family. Please remember, making a sketch of a map is for your own personal exploration. So feel free to make mistakes, scribble out lines, erase, add your own personal pathways. It does not have to look perfect or like a traditional map. Once you have your house and your main roads in, think about what else you could add to the map of your neighborhood. Any other important streets? Any landmarks or places that you go, like parks, restaurants, stores? Are there walking paths that you use that aren't necessarily found on a normal map? What else stands out to you about your neighborhood, and what makes it feel like home? Now that you've sketched your neighborhood from your own memory, let's look at it from a bird's eye view, using Google Maps. Using satellite view helps us see the Earth in a way that we're more familiar with. Click on the square in the bottom left-hand corner to get to satellite view. Use the zoom tool in the lower right-hand corner to get closer or further away from your map. You also have the ability to turn off the labels, which lets you really see the land clearly. As you look at the city from above, think about the different lines, textures, and shapes that you see. What do they each mean or represent? Have you seen similar markings on a map before? How do these different lines, shapes, and patterns affect one another or work together? Look at the dark, curving lines that the waterways make. There are more subtle, straight lines of the major thoroughfares, or the light pathways created by the highways and major roads. There's also a really different look and texture of areas with large buildings for shopping or industry versus the dense neighborhoods packed with houses. As you explore on Google Maps, think about how these lines and paths affect your movement or experience of the city. Are there certain shapes or lines that are easier to travel? Are there certain textures or shapes that block you in or keep you out? As you look at the map, are there roads or areas that you don't go or are unfamiliar with? Or are there places that you know really well, but you notice something different or unexpected when you see them from above? What did you discover about your neighborhood from looking at Google Maps? Let's use what we noticed to expand on our original sketch. For materials, you'll need your sketch of a map, a new piece of paper, a pencil or something to write with, and then some coloring supplies, whatever you like to use. What visual ideas can you take from Google Maps? Are there any roads or buildings that you want to add? What kind of information do you want to share with your map? And how does your map tell your story of your neighborhood? I started by sketching the roads from my original map using a pencil. Once most of the map was sketched in, I used a coloring pencil to darken the lines. The roads ended up looking like a pretty traditional map, but that doesn't mean yours have to. The first detail I added was a picture of my house and the block that I live on, because that's where I start most of my exploration. Next, I added buildings of a different style to represent the apartments and storefronts on National Avenue. I went back to Google Maps to put a few streets in that I wasn't sure about. Next, I added a few landmarks and places that I really like to go in the neighborhood. I gave them priority on my map by making them larger and having a lot more detail. I also added some of the lines and patterns that I noticed on Google Maps for features like railroads or pathways. I created a dense pattern for neighborhood streets and colored in the roads I used the most. While making my map, I considered what places in my neighborhood I'd like to explore further. Choose a place on your map where you'd like to go. Now that you've made your map and you know where you want to explore, it's time to go for a walk.